Melanated family. How is everybody doing today, man? This is your brother Harrison. This is the Melanated Convo, and it's always good, right? Because I do a lot of shows by myself. I interview all types of black people, all walks of life, entertainers, mayors, doctors. Don't matter. I love my people. Let's all talk. Rappers. I talk to rappers. Somebody told me, "Why are you talking to a rapper?" I said, "What? He's a black young man. Maybe I can impart wisdom. I want to hear his story. Damn it. Maybe I don't like the song, but that don't matter. I want to hear his story. The brother trying to do something. You feel me? So on the show today, I got this. This is a resident of the Melanated Convo podcast. One of my mentors, one of the brothers that got me started, helped me out, guided me when he wasn't even knowing it. On the show today, none other than Jermaine Morris. How you doing today, Jermaine?
Man, I'm doing great, and thank you for the kind words on the intro. Always a
Definitely,
pleasure
man.
getting with you.
Yeah, you my brother, man. And besides the fact that we are like-minded, the way that you view the world, because I have a particular take on things and I be going off and doing my little shit, but I like how you bring it back. You know what I mean? I be way out there and you be like, come on now. Come on now. Let me reel you back in here now. Sometimes we gotta have that. We gotta have a balance. You know what I mean? And me and this brother balances each other out. So I'm happy to be back for another show. Hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to the melanatedconvo.com. That's the actual website where you can find the show. You can find some news stories, things about history, but it's a landing space. So if you don't know where to watch the show, if you're not sure if you want to go on YouTube, you want to go to Spotify, one of these places, go to the melanatedconvo.com and you'll get an idea of exactly where to go to watch the show. Now, today, I brought my brother on, right? Because, of course, we always talk about news stories and different things that we see. But recently, I'm going to read the story real quick here because the topic of the show today is Black men. How do we protect Black women? Right? We understand from a familial space, if you're my woman, we're in the house together. Yeah, I'm gonna provide, I'm gonna protect you in this house. No danger coming towards you. But shit, what if I'm the danger? What if I'm the boogeyman? You know what I mean? So we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna read the story. We also gonna talk a little bit about celebrity worship. Looking at my brother Kanye and everything he going through. That's still my brother, man. But damn. You're making it hard for me. Yay, whatever your goddamn name is now. So let's get into it. First things first. Like I said, I found a news story and I was like, this is perfect for my brother because we always find ourselves discussing these type of topics. And I want to discuss it with my brother. So this is out of New York, y'all, right? A New York mother of 3 was shot and killed last week. And police believe that her estranged husband, who has been arrested the previous day on domestic violence charges. So you heard me. He was arrested the previous day, the same day they let him out on his own recognizance, meaning they just said, go, no bail, no nothing. You cool to leave, right? And they believe, or they know for sure now, he's responsible for her murder. So this Black woman, this sister of ours, Kiera Benefield. I may be saying the first name a little incorrectly here. Kiera Benefield. She was 40 years old, killed on October 5th as she sat inside her car outside her mother's house. And this is according to Spectrum News. Now, 2 of her children, which is really horrendous to me, family. 2 of her children were in the back seat and they witnessed the actual shooting. Now, the authorities have issued an arrest warrant for her estranged husband, Adam Benefield, in connection with the shooting. The killing happened just one day after Adam Benefield was released from jail after a domestic violence incident in which he allegedly assaulted Kiera. So, Jermaine, like, this brother was let out. How do you view this when you see, because this continues to happen? This ain't the first time. When I Googled this story, like 3 popped up right below it. That was within like the past 2 or 3 months. So how do you view this when you see it? When our system, first we'll attack the system. Our system doesn't seem to take this kind of shit serious. Like, how did you view everything when you seen it or heard about it, rather?
So context. So I don't know the particular county in which this happened, but one of the things to be aware of is that since COVID, a lot of jails are still overcrowded. So depending upon what you do is if they want to keep you or not. So if they make the decision that you are not an immediate threat in their eyes, then there's people who just get court dates and then they have to come back. So I would, if you say system was, I would first look to see if that was a factor. Because if it was like, look, this is domestic violence, they were in the heat of an argument, it became physical. He's now had 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, whatever it was, to cool off, release him like he was in a drunk tank. Like when they, pick up people who've been drinking and driving, they're like, we're not keeping you. Like, we're just going to hold you enough after 12, 14, 16 hours, you sobered up. We don't need to hold you here because you're not drunk anymore. You know what I mean? So some jails are still at capacity. And so holding people who they don't deem as an immediate threat, it is kind of common in certain areas to let people go.
That makes sense, because when you put that, of course, what he did later was horrendous. But if you just say, hey, a man assaulted his woman, and then we have a bank robber, then we have a murderer, then we have somebody that was selling a whole bunch of drugs, he may fall at the end of that list.
Domestic violence is not high on the list. And especially if while in jail, he got his composure. So by the time they dealt with him, some people know how to play the role. So if by the time they dealt with him, he was on his P's and Q's, stood up straight, yes, sir, no, sir, cool temperament. Now, on the inside, he could have been like, as soon as I get out here. But if he was in the jail and they're already crowded and this guy is like, man, I get it. I was upset. Heat of the moment. We got in an argument. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Somebody could have just thought they were doing him a solid.
And I think so. I think for women, I think our system needs to create something like a safe space. Meaning, if the woman says, I'm in fear of my life, I don't care if she's called the police a lot. I don't care what his assault record is against her. But if she says, I'm in fear of my life, there should be some mechanism where they pull her out of the home and bring her somewhere safe. Because what I hear from a lot of women, it seems like I can't go nowhere. Like, if I don't have some type of security or somebody put me in a secure space, he know where my mama live. Of course, he know where I live. I got kids with him. There's really nowhere I can go to protect me from this dude once he get out or wherever he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the hard part is when you start talking about like she should have some place to go. Certain areas do. Some places have shelters or things of that nature, but that's a short-term solution. That's for the weekend. Like, but if she got a job and she got 3 kids in school and she's got the reality of it is like, she's like, I need you to do something with him. Not with me. Put me in the witness relocation program. Like, I need y'all to do something with him.
Yeah.
And what happens a lot of times in these domestic situations is the police say, okay, we've got it documented. Here's a restraining order. Here's this, that, and the third. If he comes back and does something, call us.
Yep.
But by that logic, when he hits you again, then we'll take care of it.
It's
you know what I mean? Because it can't even just be he's there. Well, I saw him. What's the restraining order? 1,000 yards. Is he more than 1,000 yards away? Yeah, he's down the street. Okay, well, he's not. Is he threatening you? No, I can just see him though. Okay, well, he's not doing anything. So when he comes closer, or if he comes in the house, or if he does something, let us know. And then, so there is not a direct there's not a real system thing in place, because the way that the law is structured, you can't get somebody for what they might do.
Yep. And that's in any situation, not just domestic violence.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, you need to go pick him up. Well, we got him for what he did before. And based upon our system, we let him go for whatever was going on, give him a court date, whatever. And then when you go to court, then we'll address that, because you got to remember, you're still innocent until proven guilty. So just because you get arrested for domestic violence on October 1st, arbitrary date, if your court date isn't until 2 or 3 weeks, if you were actually victimized by this person, you of course want them in jail for your safety, but legally they have not been convicted of a crime.
Yep.
So there's this gray area of like, that's what they do, restraining orders and this and things of orders of protection and that sort of stuff to kind of buffer it. But the problem is until you get a conviction, they're not a convicted abuser. They're just an accused one.
Yep.
In the same way, we don't want to be, because we got to watch that slippery slope. You don't want an accusation to be all it takes to criminalize you and punish you. Like for not even just for domestic violence, but in general. Well, he accused me of doing this. So what? So we're gonna lock you up, arrest you, take your money, take your this. Well, I hadn't even been convicted yet. Well, an accusation. I mean, we don't want to start going down that road.
Slippery
so there's
slope.
a very it's a problematic gray area when it pertains to domestic violence.
True. So and like I said, I'm speaking about our women right now, but that happens to all women. They go through things where she ended up dying after calling 4 or 5 times. They didn't remove him from the home. But what you said makes sense, bro. I mean, the system is basing it on the level of criminality in the threat level and the other things they're dealing with at the time. So, like, taking it away from the system for a minute, like, what can we do as Black men, right? So we all know we have a cousin or a sister or someone in our family who it seems like she's attracted to these dudes that's always beating their ass, right? And 40 got one of the best lines ever where he says, shit, come is thicker than blood. Like, you can get in between their spat, but she may end up taking it out on you. But if we love a woman, she and our family, we love her. Any woman around us, we should want to protect them. So how do you protect a woman from a crazy nigga? Like, if he just doing what he want to do, you know they be fighting. She call you, you come over there, break it up. You come over there, get him out the house. He back over there in 2 weeks. Like, what? How do we deal with those situations?
So there's not a one-step solution. First off, let's just be real about that. And each situation is different. So if you're talking about the type of woman who, hey, Reggie done got drunk and put his hands on me, come get him up out of here. And then you get him out of there Saturday night. And then Tuesday morning, you come by and he's coming downstairs in a bathrobe, and she's making him eggs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the conversation with her. Look, okay, if you want us to put him out, we can put him out. But don't have us coming over here put him out just so he get the please, baby, please. In 48 hours, you letting him back in. So if that's what we talk, that is a particular group of people. That's not uniform. That's not everybody. If the issue is we put Reggie out on Saturday so he stays away, but he come back on Tuesday on his own. Like, she don't want him Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but he keep coming back. We are in a public forum. You can't just be saying everything on the internet. But you might have to have a conversation with Reggie.
You got to put them paws on Reggie.
You got to have a conversation with Reggie. You know what I mean? But you do want to recommend going through the proper channels. You need documentation. So for women who are dealing with the domestic stuff, whatever, so we got to go deeper than the incident. So within community, we have a lot of Black women who are committed to protecting Black men, even to their own detriment. There will be Black women who can be abused by a man and still not want him. Like, I just want him to stop abusing me, but I don't want to ruin his life. I know if I call the cops, I know how the system is with Black men. I know he's going to get railroaded. I know he just got this job and I know where he comes from. So it's just going to, reamp these other struggles he's been dealing with. And there'll be women who have been on the receiving end of abuse from him, but will still be looking out for his best interest instead of their own.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And so they're not cop collars. Black women are historically not.
Very true.
And so they'll take abuse in silence, and they won't go through the proper channels and the documentation to get what they need to really get Reggie up out of there. Sorry for anybody named Reggie who's going to hear this and just be feeling a certain kind of way. But, so the bigger picture, it's almost like anything. You can't just start with the symptoms. You can't fix unemployment by just saying we're about to get a job. You can't fix systemic problems by just treating the symptoms. So part of this underlying stuff is men circling around men for more than just discipline. So we're talking about how do we get involved. I don't start with women when we're talking about men being the perpetrators. I start with men because most men who are in those positions come from a self-esteem deficient space.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
you don't feel good about yourself. So everything is taken as a sign of disrespect. You feel like you're catching L's everything and everywhere in the world. And you feel like you can't, the only thing that you can impose your will upon is your woman at home.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking, Jermaine, because we have a lot of brothers who like go through, especially black men, right? We going through so much in the system. We kind of spoke about this last time where at work, you ain't nothing.
Yeah.
There's brothers that go to work and they ain't nothing. Your boss talk to you like shit. You don't really like this job. You had to take this job, but you didn't really want to.
Yeah.
You catching the bus to work. Maybe you seeing dudes pull up in nice ass cars. You're seeing things that you want, and it doesn't feel like you can obtain it.
Yeah.
And this goes back to even some men like harming their kids in certain ways. Like you get inside of this house, and this is the only way this is the only place I rule everything. Well, so this is the only place where people gonna listen to me.
The difference is that children are more protected than your woman.
Very true.
So if you try to impose your will upon a small child, the state will come in with swift justice under the protection of the child. CPS will be in your house. The first thing they do, pull this kid out till we figure it out.
Yep.
They'll be all up in you doing interviews, all up in your business. Like you got to they keep coming back, keep doing check-ins. They randomly show up at your house. Like if you start touching children, you know, the state takes that differently than they do domestic stuff. So for a lot of people, there are dudes who don't hit their kids, but hit their kid's mother.
Definitely, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? But solution based. So when you start talking about how do we fix this stuff, it's it takes strengthening that within men, like supporting other men. Like I said, I don't start with women for male behavior. So for brothers out there, the first thing we think of is to chastise and to berate and to insult and to check dudes who have these types of tendencies. Part of the problem is that's usually already happened to them. They say hurt people, bullies grow up to bully. They don't have an issue typically with somebody checking them. What they typically have a problem with is somebody not uplifting them. Somebody not, you know what I mean? Like it's the deficit that's the problem. You know, and so talking to brothers about like alternative ways to deal with stuff, solutions you found. Like if you're somebody who's like, I don't have those feelings. Well, how? You get angry, right? Yeah. Well, what do you do with your anger? Here's what I do. You know, here are my outlets. Here's what worked for me. I'm not even saying that I'm PhD, Dr. So-and-so, whatever. Here's just what's worked for me.
Right.
You know,
And
here's
then
some alternatives. Go ahead. I thought you said something.
Then I was thinking like does it start as a child though? Like, cause I got 5 boys, bro.
Yeah.
When you have a young man and you try to make him confident. I was just talking about this on another show. You do different things to give him positive affirmations. You try to make him confident. But I think you should also be looking for bouts of aggression, right? Because we see how a young boy will play with a young girl, too rough sometimes. I think it's up to the man to step up and say, hey, you got to find a particular way to deal with women. You can't be that rough with a woman. You have to, there's a way that you deal with it. If you see a young man dealing with anger issues, because I've seen that in children around me, and you got to put them in football. You got to do different things. But as a parent, shouldn't you be looking out for things, right, that a young person can be displaying that would let you know that maybe not just a woman, but violent against anybody?
Because there's a question that as parents and as adults, when we don't have much patience, we can't stand. And the question is why? And that is the most important question when it pertains to curbing these things. You shouldn't hit girls. Why? She hit me. Why can't I hit her back? And give an actual reason why. Like, I feel like this. Then asking them, why are you feeling? What's going on with you? Like, because what we want to do is curb the behavior with stuff like don't and stop. As opposed to, where did this come from and why are you doing this? You know, so when it comes to catching kids early, we're just about stopping the behavior because we're tired. Knock off that noise. Knock
Right.
all that mess off before I come in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we just want to stop the behavior as opposed to figuring out what's the motivation behind it. That's why kids at home will sit there and they know how to mind their P's and Q's, and then they become bullies at school. And then all of a sudden, mama get that phone call and it didn't know it was her baby that's been shaking kids down for lunch money all week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's an angel at home. Yeah, he knows how to play the role at home. He knows where to do it. But it's about catching the behavior and understanding where is this coming from.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because just again, being a father with multiple kids, you're busy, you're working, something is going on, and you're right, bro. The main thing is, okay, I just wanted to stop. I'm a probably yell or something that isn't really helping the situation either, opposed to pulling the kid to the side and seeing what's going on. And then sometimes parents, we got to take fault. You'll see the pattern.
Yeah.
You'll see this particular kid doing it multiple times, and you're not stepping in and saying, hey, what's actually going on? Have a conversation with them, especially men. I'm learning, bro. Sometimes we're not talking to the boys the right way. We allow the woman to do it, or we say a couple words. You know, we be operating in silence sometimes, where you see your kid doing certain shit, you need to kind of step in. And this remind me, it's kind of on a different subject, but it reminds me of like watching this Jeffrey Dahmer special, right? Where this kid is displaying a lot of horrific things that he may be into, like his attitude, how he's conducting himself. A parent got to step in and say, wait a minute, should I get him some help? Should I bring him to talk to somebody? Because as Black folks, we just want to whoop your ass. And really, that's not it. That's not the right way to do it. You know what I mean?
You may stop the behavior, but you didn't address like I said, you're addressing the symptom. Like the outbursts of anger, the outbursts, the disassociation and lack of empathy or compassion, like those are the symptoms. Like, what's going on with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's happening? And for a lot of times, the boys were naturally taught, you know, stop that crying, stop that whine, and I don't want to hear it. I don't what boys don't do. You're sounding like a girl. You acting like a little this right now. All that stuff.
Yep.
And so you get conditioned to not speak. Well, these emotions got to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't figure out a way to address it and to work through it and work it out with somebody, it just comes out and just emotional outbursts. It just comes out with, you know, putting hands on somebody.
Yep. And then fathers need to be real careful, because I always preach being in the house with your kids. But if it's a toxic environment, like if your kid is watching you push on mama, he watching you physically assault her, even if it's just verbally thrashing her. Like kids are, and men got to realize you can do all this to your woman and not be addressing it properly with your kids. But then when your kids do something, tell them to stop. And you
remember too, the dynamic between your parents is the blueprint for your male-female interaction.
Yep.
So all this, I can't stand my baby mama talk is their mother.
It's woo, ain't that something?
So when it's all this, so if the level of respect is not shown for her, how much respect do you expect them to have for other women in the world?
Ain't that something?
Like, and so, so when we get on this, man, I can't stand my baby mama ain't this, my baby. We forget that these are our baby's mother.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right? Yeah.
Like this is, so when they look at this is mom, this is the blueprint of, you know, womanhood and femininity and relationship and all that. And you telling me she's all 31 flavors of ain't ish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even though I may feel a certain way about her, that's still penetrating into my brain.
Yep.
And it makes me feel a certain way about her or a way about you.
Yep. And what we're talking about, y'all, there's a news story that me and Jermaine are speaking about, where a mother of 3 in New York was killed by her estranged husband. This brother was let out of jail. Like they had domestic violence spouts in the past. The day of the killing, He was released because the day before he was arrested. So the system, like Jermaine was talking about earlier, there's a hierarchy of crimes.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And domestic violence is pretty much at the bottom. So as parents, because again, we can't do nothing about the system and how they choose to operate when they do a lot of things that we don't like. But as Black men and women, sometimes we can start with our household. We can start with our children, how we were like love on the mother of your kid. Man, you preaching to me, Jermaine, because being a young father, I said all that about my kids' moms. I said all that. Sometimes in front of them, most times not, but sometimes in front of them.
It gets back to them.
Even if it wasn't,
gets back to them.
It gets back to them. So internally, okay, if my dad don't care about my mom, if he treating her this way, then I guess it's okay to call women bitches to their faces and threaten violence when you dealing with a woman at school or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because children don't discern real from make-believe. You know what I'm saying? So when you start saying all this stuff, they don't process, well, he's just referring to that metaphorically, hypothetically. He's just blowing off steam. He's just talking. He's just, no, like, go upside her head.
That's literal. Yep.
Like, that's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and kids are little tape recorders. So everything we say, they record it all. We hear it, and it stays on repeat. And it keeps looping. And we nor they get to choose which piece gets looped. You could say 10 sentences to your child, and they pick half of one sentence, and that stays on repeat for the next 30 years. You know what I'm saying? So it may have been, well, no, that sentence was out of context. I was talking about they just heard the words that came out of your mouth.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, it imprinted on them, and they keep hearing it over and over and over again. So how we behave, how we act, how do you change? You can't change the world till you change yourself.
There we go.
You start with how you are. Start with who you interact with. Start with what you tolerate. Do you tolerate conversations about, harming people, harming your baby mama, and she ain't this and she ain't that, whatever? Do you support these conversations? You know what I'm saying? Are you a rest haven for negativity? Like with me, I don't. Like for the type of person I am and how I need to be, I'm real big on the energy I keep around me. Like, so if you want to talk about a problem and come to a solution, I'll stay up with you all night. And there's people who tell you, they're like, do you ever sleep? Like we'll talk it out till we can get a little bit better. But if you just want to start talking that, this, and the third, I'm not the friend for that.
It makes sense. And you made a good point earlier. Like how do we address our homeboys who we know get a little violent? How do we address them? You got a homeboy who you really close with, you really love. He could be in your family. When he bring up the fact that he had to put hands on his woman, how do you address it? I have to be honest, Jermaine. I've been guilty of this, where it hit me off guard, and I didn't know like what to say or how serious he was or how deep it gets. And I'm like, damn, has he been doing this? Is it a pattern? You see what I'm saying? So we have to, if we really friends with people, you got to stop that behavior. And you might be an outlier. Everybody around may be laughing at his little joke he just told about choking his woman.
Yeah, see, so I'm maybe different in that. I have I feel a real kind of way about harming women and children. So it's not one that I have a sense of humor about. And it's not one that I take lightly.
Makes sense.
So I don't even give off the energy that I'm about to joke with you about. Do you know what I mean? Like if you talk, and there's been cases where somebody told me about a situation that they were in, and we addressed it very quickly. Like about how 100% this ain't okay. And you lucky where we're at now that I'm hearing about this in past tense. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like, this ain't all right. Like, and I'm not even going to give a halfway in like this is an okay environment. Sense. Same with people, women and kids, like just, there's certain stuff I don't care about. Like keep it real. You told me you stole from your job. Whatever. But maybe I should feel the same way about theft, but I don't. That's just me. But if you start telling me harming women and children, I have personally, like, I feel a certain kind of way about that. So it's not but here's the deal though. the reason why those things are acceptable in conversation is because it's not as big a deal usually to the people you can joke with that about.
Makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? If you're a father of preteen or teenage daughters, a 22-year-old joking about hooking up with a 16-year-old, you're not the one he's going to joke to about that. Especially if you have a 16-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like the energy is, this is not going to be an acceptable, R. Kelly story to share.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. But if you know the guys that you're joking with do the same thing, then it's like
that's important right there.
Then we could freely talk and joke and this, that, and the third. So I think it just depends on. I would think that if I had friends who were doing it, they would be more inclined to not tell me. I know for a fact. I got friends, they always joke when I come around, like, hey, pastor here. Like there's stuff they do as grown men that they just don't in my presence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that speaks to, because again, speaking about the story with the young lady being killed by her estranged husband, that's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And the system has a way of shuffling these things. But as men, like as a community, because we always need to be solution based. We'll laugh, we'll joke, we talk about things seriously, but we gotta have a solution. So Black men treat this seriously.
Yes.
Like if you got a homeboy who went to jail for hitting this girl, maybe not in front of people, bring him to the side and let him know, like Jermaine made a good point, let him know how serious something like that is to you.
Yeah.
If you had an experience where maybe you did something and now you regret it and you see how bad it affected your family, share that story with them. But all of us can affect this type of change because it happens way too much where women get in this situation, then people don't think it's serious till it's too late. You see what I'm saying?
Every year, thousands and thousands of Black women are killed at the hands of Black men.
And that's a fact.
When we talk about the system and we talk about this, that, and the third, and partially why it lends to some of the disconnect between Black men and Black women, how we may look at the system as our adversary. There's a lot of Black women who look at us. Like if you ask a lot of Black women who've been through things, who was the biggest person who that you had to worry about? And it's not men of other ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a lot of Black women that said the most torment they had to deal with was at the hands of other Black men.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it could be a father,
brother, relationship, whatever. Yeah. Like their biggest concern, they're not worried about the man, quote unquote. You know what I mean? They're like, they'll tell you, nah. It's Black men who've done most of the damage in their lives. So when we look at how we are, our interaction, how we're behaving, what can we do to fix it? Be honest. Remove yourself from what's going on. Don't be like, well, I never do it. Enough of us do it that it's a problem.
Yes, enough of us do it that it's a problem. And what I would hate, just like when we speak about the police brutality issues, I would hate that a brother of mine, a friend of mine, got to deal with his daughter being treated in a particular way where it gets fatal, or his sister or his mom or anybody. So sometimes I think we just need to be like the women around us that we love. We need to hold all women we come into contact with on the same level, right? Like of course you're not accepting disrespect from a woman or just humans. Create that line of respect with people, but putting your hands on women, accepting that type of behavior, all that needs to stop. And as parents, all we can do is put stuff into our young men where they care about themselves, where they really love their mama, where you be the example of you loving on your woman, you loving on your mama. You're showing that type of connection you have with them, not just saying stuff, but you physically show your kids that I love the women around me. I'm gonna protect the women around me, and maybe they may end up being the same type of individuals. You know what I mean?
So to me, you're a step ahead of where I even go with it. If you can be affectionate and compassionate and loving and nurturing and giving, what is brother Jason Wilson, great books, Cry Like a Man, and he's got a couple great books. I'll refer them to you later. Mm-hmm. But he calls it a comprehensive man, where you're across the board, that you're not only strong and protecting and providing, but you're also nurturing and compassionate and communicative. You're the full circle, like as a full comprehensive man. If you can get to that point, that's amazing. But I would start with just being a principled one. Because there's a quote that says, at the end of your feelings, there may be nothing, but at the end of every principle is a promise. So if you could just be a principled man, so these are things that I do not do. This is a way that I do not live. And it is not how I feel that day. It is not what I'm in the mood for. Like, I'm just principled to start with, because I don't think we teach principles into enough of our young men. You know, principles over your feelings. And if you could just be a principled man, that this is the way that I'll behave, and this is what I'll do and what I don't do. That to me is just the lower tier. Now when you can start becoming more comprehensive and more aware and more self-aware and more higher emotional IQ, you can add any other components. But just being principled will keep you out of a bunch of nonsense.
Very true. Very true. And it's so deep, bro, because I see young men all the time. Because of course we always talk about how many men don't have, or how many black men don't have men in their home, and we know that's a large number. We know we're still in there, and we still help out a lot, but it's a large number of young men that don't have men in the house. And I think it's even worse when you have a young dude who just being raised by his mama, right? And he may have seen his mom go through some tumultuous relationships. His father's not there. I think that makes it even difficult for him to create this scale of respect. When I've known, this didn't happen to me, thank God, but I've known dudes who their mom would have like 2 or 3 boyfriends throughout his lifetime. She had 2 or 3 boyfriends, and he didn't have a good relationship with these dudes. He didn't feel like the dude kind of gave a fuck about him. Then I know dudes, you know what I mean? Then I know dudes who had a stepdad who changed their life. Who pops wasn't there, but stepdad came in and did what he was supposed to do. You know what I mean?
I think we have to get rid of this notion of doing it by yourself. And it is shared more by black women than black men. You'll hear a lot of black men who end up as single parents, the ones who end up with custody of their children. They're very proactive about getting a wife. You hear men who end up with is just raising children by themselves. They're very intentional about getting a woman in that household, especially if they have girls. You know, but it's getting in the idea of, you learn how to deal with things from your same sex parent. So
interesting. Okay,
when you're looking at how you're going to respond to things, it's the same sex parent. So when you're thinking about, well, how do I react? How do I, whether this is what I'm gonna do or what I don't want to do, like, where's the mold? Who's the model? And so we have too many vacancies when it pertains to that.
And then, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So we have to look at, right, because you made a good point. A man will see the struggle of being with this young woman or young man by himself, and he'll say, well, no, I need some help. Not, I'm just going to settle for anything, but I'm actively kind of making sure that I kind of address this issue. And it brings me back, Jermaine, when I remember old women used to see a young woman with a baby, and she would tell the young woman who was a single mother, you better find that baby a daddy. Yeah. When I was younger, I'm like, I don't just find him a daddy. What the hell you mean? I'm a dude with no dad, so I'm not realizing. No, this kid needed daddy, and we got to be honest, Jermaine. The welfare system, different parts of our society, to me, has conditioned some women to think, well, this ain't that bad. I can do it on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. So, yes, with help. So there's the women who may have come to that conclusion, but they had help coming to that conclusion, because though there was a system that maybe is supplemented financially or with residency, there were too many men who were okay to let that happen.
Explain that. Expound on that.
So if I say, put your man out, and Uncle Sam will put food on the table. We'll put you in Section 8 housing so you have a roof over your head, and I put a couple dollars in your pocket every month. You can get by and you can maintain these children. There were too many men who were okay with letting that happen, because the other side to that is no, I'm going to do what's necessary to take care of my family myself, regardless of the dynamic between me and the mother of these children.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if it meant I need to go to work more, it means I need to act differently at home. I need to be more proactive, because what happened with the system didn't necessarily impose it upon Black women. What it did is it created an option. And so now that option became better looking than the previous one they were dealing with.
Okay.
So if you got a dude that ain't ish, who's not taking care of his family and his responsibilities like he should, Uncle Sam became a better option.
Mm-hmm.
So men, Black men specifically, needed to become the better option.
Wait, okay. So let's talk about this real quick.
Okay.
So you're saying in that situation, a man sees that the woman I chose to have a kid with is now maybe treating me a certain way because maybe I didn't step up. Because I understand what you're saying. Maybe a dude didn't step up. Maybe he wanted to be there, but what he provided wasn't enough for her. So she said, boom, I'm going to take this other route. You saying the man should have said, no, I'm going to do what's necessary. But Jermaine, answer this question for me. How do you do that if you're dealing with a woman who doesn't want that? Let's say you say, boom, hey, I got a job. I just got this new job. Get off that system. Get off that system. I'm going to come back home. We're going to do this the right way. Don't you think some women would say, well, no, I'm seeing what you just built for yourself. I like this better.
Yeah. So the statement that I'm making is more Black men. So is that a true scenario for some? Yes.
Okay.
Do I think most? No.
Okay.
I think most women would rather have their families intact in a safer neighborhood that's and not reliant on government assistance to get by every 30 days. But the difference between that and the dude is, I know Uncle Sam's coming with the check every first. I know I've got X amount of dollars on groceries every month. I know how much it costs to live in this place that I get the money for every month. Uncle Sam may not be a better option by way of quality, but he is by consistency. So when I'm saying, so for some women, they would take a lower quality, but at least I can bank on it. So if there were dudes who were not consistent, there were dudes who did not step up. There were dudes who took the idea of, my kids are okay over there. And there wasn't that fire to get in a better position to get their kids up out of there. There are generations who've lived in housing projects.
Very true.
Generations who lived in Section 8 and lower income stuff. Like, we're not talking about a one-off. We're talking about a culture. So there are too many. I'm not even going percentage of who's who. There are too many men who were okay with Uncle Sam playing stepdaddy.
That's true. I think I haven't looked at it that way before. I guess that has to be true. I mean, I know from personal experience and watching a lot that women have used that system to their advantage. Meaning, meeting a guy, having a kid with a guy, I may not even like him a lot. We may not even been on a level where I want to do that with him as far as a family and the whole nine. But in the back of my mind, I know if I have this baby, there's a system that's going to be there to be consistent. So I didn't even want him in the beginning. Like, we didn't even start this as a thing where we wanted each other like that. So I've seen that firsthand. But I mean, you're right. I think if certain men would say, because there are, because I know women now who don't put their dude on child support. Who will say, I'm not putting him on child support. All I want him to do is come see his baby or be somewhat of a participant. I've seen that firsthand too.
I'm not giving him one more reason to not show up.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen that. I've seen that firsthand. And you're right. The system has put roadblocks in our place. And I think, like, the weaker of us, like the individuals who just couldn't muster it up for whatever reason, I think all the negative things that happened to us, it really affected these kind of people. Like, I think sometimes, I know, like, growing up in a certain environment, anybody will tell you, look, if you try hard, if you stay focused, if you understand there's better than this somewhere else, you can get through this. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
But Jermaine, it be seeming like some of our people just don't have the wherewithal to look at that kind of environment and say, nah, I'm not going to be a product of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can fall into a situation where it's all right.
Where it's all right.
It's all right. Like, you don't think of your situation as good or bad anymore. It turns into, it just is.
It's not good or bad. So you're not even judging it for how bad it's affecting you or how good it's affecting you. This is just
It
where
just
I've been living my whole life.
Yeah,
Damn.
it just is. And so,
Damn.
so when I'm referring to the option, I'm talking about that Lyndon B. Johnson era.
Yes.
In the 60s.
Yes.
What I think we're talking about in the secondary era is the 90s. So coming out of the 90s and the early 2000s is when the onset of baby mama, baby daddy became a relationship status.
There we go. That
didn't exist before.
There we go.
So being, the mother of my children, the father of my children was a circumstance before. Like, if we're not together, but we have a kid together, that was a circumstance. That was a situation. Right around from 98 to 05, there was this push where you had a bunch of people who were what they call it hookup culture now, where it was a major onset.
Yeah, we talked about this before. We talked about this
people who were not together, and you had unprotected sex, and someone got pregnant. We never even decided to be anything for each other. So the idea of now we're a family wasn't real. And we're now removed from the idea of the shotgun wedding. We're removed of, you got my baby pregnant, you better marry her. We're removed from that now because of a couple of generations from the late 60s into the 70s. So now it's, I can do it by myself. And to the point to where now 2022, it's not even an eyelash batter of the idea of it. There are women who look at it up. Oh, he stuck around? Like, y'all, like
surprised.
Like, if a woman introduces her man, the presumption almost is the good man she's got now is not the father of the child she had before. You'll find more times now if a woman of a particular age has a good dude now and raising up a kid, a lot of times it's like, no, she messed with the knucklehead or whatever that situation was before, two people who shouldn't have been together that way. And then she got a good man and he's raising. That's why we see those blended families. There's the one somebody came in with, and then there's the one that we've got together in this real relationship. But all these things, like I said, start with being, like I said, principled men. Like really ingraining the reason why being principled not only makes you a better man in society, but it makes you it's better for you. Like, you actually have a standard, a criteria for the way that you live, how you talk to people, how you don't talk to people. Like, we have inadvertent principles. Like, there are dudes who knew they would cuss on the street, but then all of a sudden, when a senior citizen came by, they cleaned up.
I remember that. Gangbangers. Yeah.
It was just like, no, she's grandma age. Just stop.
Yeah. Gangbangers too. They would. Yeah.
Principles.
Yes.
They were principled people. And so I think everybody just like, I can do what I want, free for all, I can just, whatever. I think that's part of the problem, because men definitely need to be principled.
Definitely need to be principled. Damn. So, okay. So but you do see the connection, because you're right. That's why I'll be having you on the show, boy. Because the 90s, you're right. It turned into this, my baby mama, like the requirement for the relationship change. But you do think that what happened in the 60s, it kind of set something in motion that became like autopilot. You know what I mean?
You got to remember, though, the people who felt that way in the 90s are the children of the people from the end of the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
So when you had that place where Uncle Sam could step in and play stepdaddy, this is in 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. Okay, so now the kids that they had in that scenario are now, so go to the 90s, these are the 20 some odd 30-year-olds who are having babies because they grew up in a household where
there we go,
Uncle Sam was stepdaddy. So the idea of my dad wasn't there, but we still ate. My dad wasn't there, but the lights are still on. My dad wasn't there, we had a place to stay. So now if you don't stay, I have seen a workable blueprint that a family can maintain itself without you. And depending upon if mama was about that life or not, not only did you just maintain, but you could have lived better than others. Because there's some mamas who really got on the grind because of that.
Yeah, yeah. And Blue Girl is saying Jermaine, the music kind of helped with that too. Because we did, like you said, in the 90s, the baby mama thing, like in the 80s, wasn't nobody saying that, right? Or am I mistaken? In the 80s, baby mama wasn't a phrase.
We were still talking about love in the 80s.
Yeah. See, 90s, the music, the culture,
the
baby mama thing that's just your baby mama. That's just my baby daddy. I remember that song. We all dancing to it as kids. That's horrific shit. You know what I mean?
So you also have to understand, so going into so up until, we'll call it the end of the 90s, there was a major push for love amongst Black people. So you got to remember, we had Whitney Houston and Luther Vandross and Freddie Jackson and Boyz II Men and Babyface and Toby, and everybody was talking about love, loving each other, loving on each other, like being in love. Like that wasn't like, oh, in the 60s or the 70s. That's the 90s.
True.
You know, and so, but once you start to come out of the 90s into the 2000s, that's when it became, that's the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s was the shift.
It was,
and you didn't start hearing about all this, baby, I love you, baby, I need you, just me and you, this, that, you know, all that sort of stuff. You started hearing, bees ain't ish, but like,
yep. And
you started hearing all that stuff.
Yep, and these corporations capitalized off of all of that, because even today, people talk about like the R&B music, and yes, if you dig deep, you can find love R&B music. A lot of your favorite artists still make great R&B songs, but if you cut the radio on, it's amazing what they play on the radio, Jermaine. They are bleeping the profanity, but I'm like, damn.
Remember, art imitates life.
Man, look.
So you have to understand that because of these cultural things that were happening, they are now a demographic that needs to be represented. So you're now two, 3 generations of baby mama, baby daddy. They have a voice and they want representation too.
Yep.
And they're loud.
Yep. They're loud. Keyword loud.
They are loud and they turn up and they do all these things and they show up for that. And so, this is a viable marketplace.
Yep.
Like if you think like in the United States, Black people, what are we, like 12%, 13%, some of the population? Think about how many things are catered towards Black people. Okay, so imagine this demographic of 70% of our kids are born out of wedlock. It's more than 10%. It's more than 12%. So you're seeing how come all these things are catered towards them, because they represent a big enough population to be addressed. So, and then they perpetuate that culture onto the next generation. So you have to be, so if you know better, do better. The onus is on those who know, not the ones who don't know. So if you're of a generation where you grew up with love, you need to reintegrate that into society. Like if you got kids, the same way we got hit with Kool and the Gang on a Saturday, like mom and dad putting music on when they were cleaning the house, and we listening to The Time and Kool and the Gang and James Brown and Aretha Franklin. These kids, the problem is where we're at now. I've said it before. This is the first time in this country's like generation where a 16-year-old and a 36-year-old are virtually the same.
What you mean?
Culturally. So if you take a 16-year-old and a 36-year-old, they're listening to the same music, going to the same movies, wearing the same clothes, and the same, culturally the same. Prior to when we were 16, there was a fine difference between us and our parents.
Yep.
Culturally.
Yep.
Now you got a 16-year-old boy and a 36-year-old man both waiting for the new 2K to come out. They both waiting for the new Jordans to drop. They're both waiting on the new Migos, the Drake album. They both list, like, you mean there's not that separation. So we're not influxing to the younger generation the stuff we know. We're just double downing on what they into.
Double down on what they into. And then I think, like you're saying, Jermaine, it's all about the parenting, because I think there's a way to do it. Because I pride myself on doing this. If you do have a kid that's in the hip hop, in the R&B music, and maybe they listening to the ratcheted of the most ratchetest, it's up to you to throw on some of that old school, throw on some Jodeci or something, throw on some Al Green, throw on something, even hip hop. Go back, let them listen to the beginning album, some Big Daddy Kane, some Jay-Z. Give them a reference from what they're looking at, because nowadays kids be like, I don't care. I used to love the history of hip hop and older dudes and what they came from, what they did. A lot of these kids be like, I don't give a shit.
Well,
Turn
you
up.
also have to remember too is that there's a unique thing happening with this younger generation. We are not children of social media. So when we were kids, there wasn't even the internet.
Mm-hmm.
We are kids of writing in cursive, the Dewey Decimal System, and Encyclopedia Britannica. Mm-hmm. Like we are a different. So we can't always just look at it through our eyes for how they are. But so something that's happening now, and parents, are noticing it, but they may not be cognitive of what's happening. They're actually creating attention deficit disorder in our children. It's being manufactured. So what it is when you go through social media, there's long form, which is something which you refer to as like YouTube. You can watch a 2-hour YouTube video that's long form. Then they shut everything down to you go to like the Instagram to Reels to where it's like 60 seconds. Now they shift everything to TikTok to where it's within 10 seconds, 15 seconds. They're creating ADD through the children's programming for how they take in content and information. So the idea of sitting with something is not a part of their wiring. This generation's wiring is everything is quick. We joke about it, say, oh, they don't have patience, they don't have attention span, or they don't have this and that. Well, the way that they're being wired at such a young age with what they participate in is all short form. So you have to influx this long stuff. I need you to sit with this album. Like I need to hear, we have to be intentional about carving out time to sit with kids to teach them these things.
Very true.
Because the way they're being raised and the way that they're being groomed and programmed is for very short spurts of very short information, which got a very quick rollover.
Very true. Very true. And Blue Girl was just mentioning something that I thought was worth mentioning. It's like, because LL Cool J came out because DJ Academics mentioned something about the pioneers. Now, I did hear DJ Academics' full idea and thought on what he meant, right? How he said it was kind of funny. It was kind of tongue in cheek, but it does speak to a younger generation not quite understanding the importance of the people that came before them. Because in any context, to even make that statement without understanding that, broke or not, without these dudes, we wouldn't be here. I think that does speak to the generation we in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because so partially also being children of social media, so you got to remember, so if you're 15 and you follow your 50 friends and you follow all these celebrities and stuff, and your friends follow you, when your friends scroll past Drake, Kanye, there you are. After you is what Steve Harvey's Lori Harvey. After her is the buddy that you go to math with. After her is Doja Cat. After them is whomever. Your brain is not differentiating between you and those people. You're all in the same playing field if someone's following you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're watching them, you're seeing everybody's the same. So now I'm comparing where you are to where I am. So then it's okay. Well, he's got yachts. He's got, Bugattis, and he's got this and that, and he doesn't. So we're all the same, and he's got more. So I respect the person who's got more in front of me than anything else, because that's physically what's in front of me. And to go with that, so with the academics comments, you got the short form version. You got the clickbait.
Very true.
So what gets posted is not the full conversation of what's happening.
Yep.
It's the 10-second clip circulated over and over again, and you get that sound bite, and then that's what you run with.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So when you put those two types of things together, where you're comparing highlight reels, and then you just get incredibly limited information, like I said, the only way to counterbalance that is you have to be intentional about really working into these kids. Like, I got to show you what it is. Because if I leave it up to the system that you're currently plugged into, you ain't going to get it.
You're not going to get it.
You're not supposed to, based upon that system.
And you have to make a conscious effort, because, I mean, listen, man, even as adults, social media got a lot of us.
Yeah.
I'm happy I started engaging at a later age, because I can't knock these kids. Boy, if I was 16 with a phone, boy, Woo! If I had Instagram so I can only imagine everything they're going through. But as an adult, you got to stop yourself. I'm online. I'm supposed to be sharing all these nice videos I just created. This catch my eye. That catch my eye. Oh, that's interesting. Let me read that a little bit. That happens to all of us. Now, of course, you should monitor the type of information you're doing this with, because this can be good information, but it's still taking you away from something. You know what I mean?
I was joking. Say, you want me show me who you are? Show me your Explorer page. I don't even need to talk to you about it. Just show me your Explorer page. Let's go to the Explorer page. Let me see what pop up. let me see because that's how you entertain yourself. I don't care. I'm into history.
Right.
I'm into math. I'm into African sculptures and the history of this. Man,
shut up. Let me see your phone.
Them 50 pictures pulled up, and all it was rap clips and booty videos, booty shaker videos. Okay, that's how you spend your day.
Some people, they chase you down for their phone. Pick they phone up like you about to go inside their phone. They'll break their neck getting that damn phone for you, because I always tell people, Jermaine, shit. Yeah. You are what you do in your free time. You can tell me anything. You can work for whoever. But when your time is only yours and you ain't on nobody clock but yours, what you doing?
And the algorithm, you can't lie to it. The algorithm only puts up what you've shown interest in some way, shape, or form.
I've mistakenly clicked on a type of video that I don't normally watch.
But they keep popping up.
That was funny. Now I can't get rid of this motherfucker.
Exactly. Everything that's on there is something you've shown interested to some degree.
To some, it could have been 2 seconds. They said, no. You looked at it.
You like that a little bit.
Here goes some more. I've been searching the internet for, like, to buy something in particular, right?
Mm-hmm.
I go right to Facebook, check something out. I'm looking for something somebody sent me. I'm like, wait, is that the damn shirt that I was just looking at? Like, these sneaky boy. And I'm old enough to be like, wait, let me look. But for a kid, it's like, this perfect. They did this for me. I'm supposed to buy this.
Yeah. So with our kids, and it's not to demonize them for where they are. It's simply where they are. They didn't get to pick the system that they grew up in, that they were born in, the era they were born into. And so that's why for us, it's being knowledgeable of what the difference is. Then it's got to be like, I saw that one, delete my search history.
Yeah, she said she deleted her search history. But see, I know, but check it out, Blue Girl. If I pull up your phone and ain't nothing there, I'm like, oh, something going on with you too. Yeah. You got to have something in the search history.
It's understanding where these kids are, how they're learning, what's being brought to them. And then, so take it all the way to the beginning. So we're talking about this case with this sister and this brother.
Mm-hmm.
And what can we do to start to curb this sort of stuff? Understanding, like, they're not being groomed within the system with principles. They're not being groomed with explanations. They're being told everywhere they look that all their feelings are valid. And I'm not even questioning that, but there's no real, all the expression of all your emotions is fine until you break the law. And so the law should not be the bar. Like, if you're talking about how do I going to behave, how do I want to, it shouldn't be I should do everything up until I break the law. It should be I should be aware of who I am, how I behave, and which of these behaviors begets another one. So if you have a propensity to be an alcoholic, one beer is not against the law. You can drive after drinking a beer. But if you can't drink one beer, because if you drink one, then that means you got to have 4. If you know that about yourself, then it's I'm not drinking beer or I'm not driving. I don't wait until I get to the point to where now it's illegal to where I start worrying about it. It's about being aware of who we are and putting these things in place to get us before we get to the point to where we're in the nonsense.
Makes sense.
And so when it comes to violence and these expressions of emotions that's harming other people, it's not about catching them when they're on the 4th beer. It's the conversation before we leave the house. Are you drinking tonight? Are you driving? How you feeling? Are you in the mindset to be drinking? Have you been? How many times you drank this week? Like, well, what's going on? Is it something you want to talk about? Like, let's catch you before we even get to the bar. And being self-aware enough to realize, man, I've been drinking 4 times this week. Am I tripping? Is it like maybe I need to, but that level of exploration into ourselves is not there in this system. This system does not promote that. So you have to be very intentional about doing it yourself, because if you just put your kids in school, just get in the system, get behind the wheel, go down the assembly line, this stuff is not going to be present.
It's not going to be present. And I'm teaching myself this every day, y'all. You got to be proactive.
Yes.
Oh man, being reactive in life, it just creates a drag, man. It creates problem after problem. When something happens and you say, damn, I was supposed to go there. Yeah. Damn, I should have called them 2 days ago. Damn, I should have. So when it's really a good practice to try to be proactive in everything you do in your life. Like now I have to practice it in the small stuff, because it'll be a big thing that I'll handle, but it's the small thing. Then it's another small thing. Then it's another small thing. Now it's 5 small things. Well, now it's something big. You know what I mean?
And for a lot of people, that's a trigger to procrastination. And so once things become overwhelming and we feel like it's a lot, then we just kind of try to avoid it altogether. But life doesn't let us. So
life doesn't let us.
So you had 3 weeks. If you'd have re-engaged and got back in, you could have knocked it out, but you did nothing for 3 weeks. And now they're about to shut the lights off. They're about to repo the car. They're about to do this. That's when you go to your mom or your brother. Hey man, I need to borrow $3,000 to get caught up. How'd you get $3,000 behind?
$3,000.
Why didn't you call me when you owed me 100 when it was 150?
Yep.
Like,
yep.
I'm 3 months behind on my rent, but why didn't you call me when you was a day behind?
I know people like that who can't seem to. They like, I don't want to bother this person or people. Then it get worse, and it get worse, and that feeling of not wanting to bother them keep getting deeper, because now it's $2,000, and you keep hitting yourself. This shit was $130 a month ago.
Oh yeah.
Then I still got to go ask the same person.
So how do we curb this stuff? So within ourselves first. Children watch way more than they listen. And so how we behave, what models we are when we're around, how do we speak to people, how do we speak of people, how do we allow people to speak to us? What's that in the Black community? We have been, so perfecting the small, like you said, start where you are with what you've got, with what you want to do. That's your household, that's your children, that's your relationship. That's the stuff that you put out into the world. And I think one of the issues that we have is that people who specifically men who figure it out have a tendency to disappear.
What you mean?
So it's not the dudes who are in good marriages who figured out ways to communicate and have empathy, to be those comprehensive men and be good fathers. Those are the ones who go away and take care of their 4 walls. It's the ones that haven't figured it out that are running rampant, running their mouths and causing trouble.
Yep.
So the ones who figured it out have a tendency to kind of just fade and disappear. Like, well, I'm gonna take care of me and mine.
Yep.
And they don't share what they've learned. And they don't express what they've experienced. And so you'll always hear dudes talk about these women ain't ish and these hoes ain't loyal and this, and this. But if you really got a good congregation of men who are happily married, who are involved in their family's lives, and they start telling you the joys of what it is to feel love genuinely from a good woman in a healthy family. Like there are men walking around who think that that's a fairy tale.
True.
That there's no man walking around who feels genuine love and support and respect and feels dignity within his household, raising children up between him and his wife in a loving surrounding environment. That's the Cosbys. That's the Huxtables. That's not real. But so for men who figured that out, those were the ones that need to be more verbal, because the dudes screaming women ain't ish are loud.
Ain't they?
The guys who are living those lives and walking in that existence are the ones that we need to hear more from.
We need to hear more from. And this is and you know, we've kind of spoken about that a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think just men in general who are doing something good, because the family is a great thing and a
Yeah.
happy family. And you can, because you can meet a dude who is cool as you is, he got swag, but he got a family that he go to every night. There's no prototype for a black man who is happy and in love with his
No.
family, but more men need to discuss these things. And this can be with just success too, Jermaine. Men sometimes who get really successful at things, they'll back up. They'll be from a neighborhood and they've been scarred by the conditions of their environment. So they'll say, I'm out of here. I don't want to have to deal with that shit. But they're not realizing you can help a young dude. You ain't got to give him money or give him resources, but
No.
how you live can be a resource for him.
So I think one of the things that we do is that we've put money over everything.
Literally.
And that we look at the success of somebody as monetary. And we look at someone to look up to as if they're rich. I think kind of talking when we're talking about the celebrities type stuff too. And so we only respect the people who got money. And so in that part of the culture, so it's like, nah, that guy, he's a store manager at Target. He make enough money, pays for the house. His wife, she got a gig doing this. They raising up kids. They had every soccer game, every little league. They got the cookouts every, once a month. They're taking family vacations once a year. Like they love each other. They communicate. He's not balling. But he has got a good, healthy relationship and a tight, strong family. But because he's not balling, we don't want to hear him.
We don't want to hear nothing you got to say.
You know what I'm saying? So getting out of the notion of when we think about what success is, removing the monetary aspect of it. Because the reality of it is, if you figured out a way in this life to find a mate that you genuinely, openly love, that you can be transparent and yourself, who they genuinely love you and they can be their open, transparent self, and y'all are still in a healthy existence, and that trickles down to your children, you are successful by any metric, in my opinion, that you can put up.
That's what I tell people. Excuse me. You can want to go out in the streets and be a revolutionary and put your fists up and wear the nice shirts and all that's good. I want you to do that. But the first thing, in your house, if you create the structure in your house that's plentiful and it's happy and people and everybody get along and you're walking the walk and talking the talk, that's more revolutionary than anything you can damn near do. You know what I mean? And it starts with the family. So, man, thank you, my brother Jermaine, for coming on another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. This was a good one. We still on one topic, like I'm going to do more with my brother because we got a lot to say. You know what I mean? And this is important. Like we look at things outside of ourselves sometimes, y'all. We see in New York a black woman getting killed by her man, and we like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. That's way in New York, but no. Check your backyard. Maybe you ain't hurting your woman like that. Maybe you're not trying to go that far, but what you doing? How is your family structure? How important is it to you to have your kids in your home and have positive conversations with them, not cussing at them all the damn time? Like, this is sometimes things just be, to me, an alert to look at that mirror and see how far you are on the scale you created for yourself, because it's not based on what nobody else think about you. You should have a measuring stick on your own of how you want to be successful, things you want to do. And like my brother just said, man, the manager at Target can afford to buy a house. This is real talk. His woman got a little job too. This is life in America. Go on vacation every year. Y'all go out to eat. Go to the sports events. 2 cars. Trying to invest a little bit. This is America. You look, the people you see on TV balling, all this jewelry, all this money. A lot of them really ain't got what they saying, but that's 2-3% of America. Most people really ain't got shit like that, but a lot of people still happy. You know what I mean? So it's about seeking true happiness and understanding that we all in this together. Like, you can help your brother by just talking to him, by just saying, hey, this is how I did it. Everybody's looking for a monetary gain when sometimes just your presence can be the gain someone needs, the information you provide them. You know what I mean? So, Jermaine, do me a favor, brother, and tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, for more riveting conversation like this. Couple things. So one, because I do need to promote the business too.
There you go.
So by profession, I work as a certified coach and consultant with a practice based around a DISC assessment, which is basically a test that shows how we deal with problems, how we interact with people, our ideal communication styles, potential blind spots in our behavior, So I'm not just pulling all these random things out of thin air as I'm talking. And for information about that, you can go to mykeysto.me.com. And that gives the information, the breakdown on the assessment. You can get a 15-minute free consultation. I can walk you through the process and all that if that's something you want to do. That's mykeysto.me.com. And then all social media platforms are at JMorrisCEO.
At J Morris, see, this brother know what he's talking about, man. It's common sense, but he bringing the game to us, family. We have to think about everything. That's why I bring Jermaine on the show. We got to think deep about everything we engage in. We can start off on a news story that seems surface, but it's so many layers to everything we going through. And if we just stopped and thought things through, using our past trauma, using where we're trying to go in life, using how we treat people, stop saying them and start saying me. Like I had to go through a stage where I was like, damn, I'm actually the biggest problem in my life. Thought it was her, thought it was my job. It ain't really none of them. And that hurt for a minute, but we got to be real with ourselves, man. I mean, this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. Follow me on Melanated Convo 100 on Instagram. They stole the other one. Bastards stole my other Instagram page, but it was for good. So now I'm like, I need to focus, just have one.
Singular focus.
You know what I mean?
And one quick thing, I know you're signing off. Two things for people to remember. Number one, the same way that hurt people, healed people heal people.
Ooh. Come
on
now.
The same way that hurt people spread and hurt other people, healed people spread and heal other people. And that accountability is not conditional.
Damn.
So I'm not accountable. If you do this, then I'll do that. I'm going to do this because I'm taking responsibility for my part and my life, regardless of what you do on your side. Like principled. Accountability is not conditional. And just like hurt people, healed people, heal people.
And there we go. Just like that. Another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. My great brother, Jermaine Morris. We out.